The parking attendant at Harrington's takes my keys without making eye contact. The lot is already half full of vehicles that cost more than my annual salary. I spot my father's Audi, pearl white and freshly washed, parked in the reserved section near the entrance. I check the time on my phone. 6:54 p.m. My mother's text from this morning said cocktail hour starts at 7. I'm early, which means my brother is already inside with our parents, holding court, laughing his easy laugh, filling the room the way he always does, like oxygen finding every corner. The envelope in my bag is a cream-colored rectangle, heavy and formal. I had it made at a print shop in my neighborhood, the kind of place where the owner still cuts paper by hand and charges accordingly. Inside, a certified bank check for $12,000. 4 years of setting aside whatever I could. Extra shifts, freelance work, $100 here and there from a salary that was never quite enough. A thank you, a gesture, a daughter trying one more time to make herself seen. The hostess at Harrington smiles at me with practiced neutrality. I'm with the Caldwell party, I say. The engagement celebration. Of course, she says, right this way. She leads me through the main dining room and into the private section at the back, where warm Edison lighting falls across linen-draped tables arranged in a horseshoe. I count the guests, maybe 30 people, cousins and family friends, and my brother's colleagues from the investment firm. My mother is already in position near the entrance to the private room, touching her pearl earring, adjusting it slightly the way she does when she wants someone to notice them. She sees me. Something in her expression settles, the way it does when an expected inconvenience finally arrives. You made it, she says. She doesn't hug me. I said I'd be here. She's already turning away, back toward a cluster of my father's colleagues. Your brother's been asking for you, she says over her shoulder. He's over by the bar. He isn't. I know this because I can see the bar from where I'm standing, and my brother is on the other side of the room entirely, talking to a man in a navy blazer, laughing at something loud enough for the whole room to know he's laughing. His fiancée stands beside him, her hand tucked into the crook of his elbow. She's beautiful the way people are beautiful when life has mostly been kind to them. I find a seat near the window, at the end of a table mostly occupied by cousins who glance at me and offer small, polite smiles. One of them, a second cousin I've met twice, leans over and asks if I'm with the bride's side or the groom's. I'm the groom's sister, I say. Oh, he looks genuinely surprised. He didn't mention a sister. I'm used to it. The check inside my envelope seems heavier with every passing minute. I'd thought about giving it to my parents over dessert, after the speeches, after the champagne. I'd written 12 drafts of the card that would accompany it. In the end, I settled on something simple. Thank you for giving me a start in this world. I hope this shows what you taught me, that hard work is its own answer. With love. I hadn't been able to make myself sign it with just my name. It felt too bare. My father stands before dinner is served. He's the kind of man who commands a room by simply clearing his throat, and 30 people go quiet without being asked. Tonight, he says, raising his glass, we celebrate the beginning of my son's next chapter. He smiles at my brother across the room, the particular smile he reserves for moments when he wants everyone to see how proud he is. 29 years ago, God gave your mother and me one extraordinary gift. He pauses, lets the sentiment settle. We've watched that gift become a man any parent would be honored to call their son. No one in the room looks at me. Not my mother, who is nodding with tears threatening her mascara. Not my brother, whose jaw has gone soft with gratitude. Not a single family friend or cousin or colleague, because why would they? The story my father is telling has always had only one person in it. 29 years ago, I'm 32. The room lifts their glasses. To Brennan, my father says. The room echoes it back. I look down at my water glass. My hand is steady. I notice this the way you notice something small and unexpected, the way a candle doesn't flicker in a sudden draft. After dinner is cleared and conversation breaks into smaller, warmer currents, I stand and pick up my bag. No one notices. I walk the length of the private room to where my aunt and uncle are sitting, slightly apart from the main gathering the way they always are, because they've never quite fit my parents' version of family either. My aunt looks up when I approach. Her hair is grayer than the last time I saw her, and she's wearing the blue cardigan I remember from Thanksgiving 4 years ago, the one she bought on clearance and wears because she likes it, not because anyone expects her to wear anything in particular. Sweetheart, she says, come sit. My uncle pulls out the chair beside him without being asked. I sit, I reach into my bag, I set the envelope on the table in front of them. What's this? My aunt asks. Open it when you get home, I say. My voice doesn't shake. I'm aware in some distant way that this surprises me. It's for you. Both of you, for everything. My uncle starts to say something, but I see my father beginning to turn in our direction from across the room. That instinctive radar parents have for when something is happening without their permission. And I squeeze my aunt's hand once, briefly, and stand. I walk toward the exit. My code is already checked. The woman at the front retrieves it with a ticket stub I've kept in my palm for the last hour. The February air outside is cold enough to sting. I don't look back. The first memory arrives as it always does, unbidden. I am 7 years old, sitting in the third row of the school gymnasium, wearing the blue dress my mother bought because my brother had a piano recital the same night, and they needed something that worked for photographs. My science fair project, a trifold board I'd stayed up past midnight to finish, had placed second in the regional competition. The awards ceremony was at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday. My parents arrived at the piano recital hall on the other side of town at 2:45. My aunt sat in that gymnasium with a camera she'd borrowed from her neighbor and a grocery store bouquet of carnations dyed orange, because she knew orange was my favorite color. She cheered louder than anyone else's family. On the drive home, she let me hold the second-place ribbon on my lap. "We'll get first next year," she said. My uncle from the passenger seat, "She already won first in my book." I was 7 years old. I thought this was normal. I thought every family had a pair of adults who drove 40 minutes to witness the ordinary victories of an unremarkable child. It took me 20 years to understand that what they were doing was extraordinary. The missed calls begin before I reach the highway. My mother first at 9:47 p.m. I watch her name light up my screen and let it to voicemail. My father at 9:52. My brother at 10:04, then again at 10:09, then a text, "Call me now." I pull over at a gas station on Route 9 and sit in the parking lot with the engine running. The fluorescent lights inside the convenience store cast a yellow rectangle across the asphalt. A man in a reflective vest buys coffee. A teenager sits on the curb, phone in hand. I call my aunt. She picks up on the second ring. "We opened it," she says. Her voice is thick. "Oh, sweetheart." "I know it's a lot," I say. She stops, starts again. "Why?" I look through the windshield at the yellow light, and the man with his coffee, and the ordinary night going about its business. "Because you showed up," I say. "Because you've always shown up." Silence. Then my uncle's voice in the background asking her something. She tells him and he goes quiet too. "You don't owe us this," he says when she passes the phone. "I know, that's not what it is." He takes a breath. "Then you know you've always been our kid too." I press my back against the seat. My throat does something complicated. I know, I manage. "We don't know what happened tonight," he says. "We don't need to know. But whatever you need, we're here. We've always been here." "I know," I say again, and for the first time in a very long time, knowing it feels like enough. The voicemails accumulate like snowfall overnight. By morning, there are 9. I make coffee and listen to them in order, leaning against my kitchen counter in yesterday's clothes. My mother's voice, on the third message, reaches a frequency she uses when she wants me to understand the magnitude of what I've done. "Do you have any idea how you made your brother feel? On the night of his engagement party?" His engagement party? My father's messages are shorter. Clipped. "You've embarrassed this family" is the subject of 2 separate voicemails, delivered at different times of the night but with the same practiced chill. My brother texts at 6 a.m. "What you did was immature and jealous. You made mom cry." I think about the speech. One extraordinary gift. I think about the second-place ribbon and the orange carnations and the 40-minute drive. I type back, "I wasn't jealous, I was erased, there's a difference." He reads it, doesn't respond. I block his number, then my parents. The silence comes in like tide after a long storm, full and strange, and underneath the strangeness something I might call relief. 3 days later my cousin texts me. "Heard there was drama at the party. You okay?" She's a year younger than me, lives in Portland now, teaches 2nd grade. We grew up spending summers at our grandparents' lake house, and she is one of the few people in the extended family who has always seemed to understand, without needing it explained, that I occupy a different position in our family than everyone assumes. "Not okay yet," I write back, "but working on it." "Good enough," she says. "Call me if you need." What I don't tell her is that I've spent the last 3 days doing something that surprises me. Sleeping. Fully. Without waking at 3 in the morning, running through mental tallies of what I said, wrong, and what I could have done differently. For the first time in years, I'm not rehearsing a version of myself that might finally earn the right response. My apartment is small, but it's mine. I chose every object in it deliberately. The bookshelves I built from a kit when I moved in, the kitchen table I found at an estate sale and sanded down myself, the print above the desk that says "You belong to no one's story but your own." I bought that print 3 years ago at a craft fair and hung it facing the window, and there have been whole weeks when I forgot it was there. I notice it now, in the afternoon light, and something in my chest unknots. My supervisor at the architectural firm stops me in the hallway 2 weeks after the party. She's heard through the family network, which is vast and efficient and entirely without mercy, that I'm apparently going through something. She doesn't ask about it. She hands me the file for a new residential project instead. Young couple, first home, she says. Tight budget but good bones. I told them you were our best. I take the file. That evening I spread the floor plans across my kitchen table. The house is a 1940s colonial in a suburb 40 minutes outside the city. Sagging front porch, galley kitchen, 3 bedrooms, last updated when Reagan was president. On paper it looks like a problem. When I close my eyes and let myself see it the way I've always been able to see things, the light, the movement, the possibility underneath the surface, I see a home. An actual home, the kind that wraps around a family, like a sentence that knows how to end. I sketch for 3 hours without stopping. At midnight my phone buzzes with a text from my aunt. Your uncle made soup, too much as usual. Can I drop some off tomorrow? I smile at my empty apartment. Please, I write back. She arrives at noon with a container of lentil soup and a loaf of sourdough wrapped in a dish towel, and she sits at my kitchen table and doesn't ask me to explain myself, and doesn't offer advice I didn't ask for. She looks at my sketches spread across the table and asks me to walk her through what I see. I do. I tell her about the porch, how I want to open the front of the house toward the afternoon sun. I tell her about the kitchen, how I'd take the wall down and make it part of the living space so the family can all be in the room together. She listens the way she always has. Fully, with her whole attention, the way that makes you feel like what you're saying is the most important thing happening in the world right now. You've always had this, she says when I finish. This way of seeing a space and knowing what it wants to be. She looks at me over her coffee mug. Your parents were always so busy watching your brother fly that they never watched you build things. I wrap both hands around my soup bowl. They came to exactly 0 of my presentations in 6 years of school, I say. I don't say it with bitterness. It's just a fact, the same as the year I was born or the square footage of my apartment. My aunt doesn't offer an excuse for them. She's never done that. I know, she says. We were there for as many as we could get to. 8, I say. You came to 8 of them. She nods. I remember all of them. The lawyer's letter arrives on a Tuesday, printed on heavyweight cream stationery with a firm name I don't recognize. 3 paragraphs. The substance of it, stripped of legal language. My parents are suggesting that the gift was made under emotional distress and questioning whether it was intended as some kind of final accounting. They're not threatening to sue, not exactly. They're suggesting the money should be returned, and that perhaps everyone should agree to move forward. As though the engagement party never happened the way it did. I read it twice, standing at my kitchen counter still in my coat. I think about what my uncle said once, driving me to the airport when I was 23, heading back to school after a holiday that had gone the way holidays in my family always went. He'd been quiet for most of the drive, both hands on the wheel, easy with the silence the way people are when they've spent decades not needing to fill it. Then somewhere on the highway he said, "People who love you don't keep receipts." I fold the letter into thirds and file it in a drawer. I don't respond. My brother calls from a number I don't recognize. I pick up before I realize it, muscle memory, and his voice comes through flat and certain. You made Mom sick over this, you know that. I stand in my kitchen. Outside, someone is mowing a lawn in the February cold, that particular American optimism of assuming spring might still be coming. I was in this family for 32 years, I say. Dad's toast lasted 6 minutes, do the math yourself. He says something about jealousy, about my attitude, about how I've always made things harder than they need to be. I'm not jealous of you, I say. I'm just done pretending the accounting was fair. He hangs up. I realize after a moment that my voice had been completely level. No performance, no shaking, just the truth, spoken at a normal volume like it belonged in the open air. 6 weeks after the party, a local paper runs a feature on a restoration project I completed last fall. A 1910 Victorian near the waterfront that I'd spent 8 months turning from a gutted shell into a home that won a regional design award. My supervisor sends me the link. My aunt calls within the hour, excited, asking if she can frame the article. My uncle leaves a voicemail that makes me laugh at my desk. I'm telling everyone, he says. The woman at the diner, the guy who fixes my truck, everyone. I save the voicemail. The day after the article runs, a new client calls. A retired school teacher. Late 60s, silver hair, she cuts herself, a bungalow near the lake that she's owned for 30 years and wants to renovate as her final gift to herself before a knee replacement. She heard about the Victorian. She asks if I have time. I make time. During our first meeting, she offers me tea and tells me about the bungalow the way people talk about places they love. As if the rooms themselves have memory, I sketch while she speaks. At one point, she stops mid-sentence and watches my hand move across the paper. You listen with your pencil, she says quietly, like it's an observation she's been saving. I look up. It's the nicest thing anyone said to me about the work, I tell her so. She waves a hand. I imagine people have said nicer. I shake my head. She pours more tea. Then her voice shifts to something gentler. My daughter stopped speaking to me for 4 years after her father, and I handled something very badly. We're okay now. But those 4 years, I learned more in them than in any decade before. I hold my teacup. She looks out the window at the frozen lake. Sometimes distance isn't abandonment, she says. Sometimes it's just the only way to finally hear yourself think. My parents show up on a Saturday. I see them from the window. My mother in a camel coat. My father's silver sedan idling in the visitor's lot. My mother has her hands folded in front of her the way she does when she's about to do something that requires effort. My father is holding a folder. I breathe. I let myself breathe for a full 30 seconds. Then I go downstairs and open the building door before they knock. My mother starts with, "We've been so worried about you." My father starts with, "This has gone on long enough." They talk over each other until I hold up one hand, and to my genuine surprise, they both stop. "I let you in because I'm willing to say one thing," I say. Not to negotiate, not to revisit the party, just one thing. My mother's eyes fill immediately, the way they do, like a talent she was born with. "I was there," I say, "at the engagement party, at my brother's college graduation, at his high school awards night, at every milestone you've treated like the main event of your lives. I was there in the room, at the table, and I have been invisible inside's family for 32 years. Not neglected, I know the difference. I wasn't hungry, I wasn't unsafe, but I was unseen every single day." My father opens his mouth. "I'm not finished," I say. He closes it. I register this distantly, like a weather change. "I gave that money to the people who came to my science fair when I was 7, and my presentations when I was 23, and who called me the week I got my first client just to say they were proud. I gave it to the right people. And I need you to know that I don't regret it, and I'm not returning it, and I'm not going to pretend the accounting in this family was ever fair." My mother says, "We did the best we could." I know, I say, I believe that, and it still wasn't enough. Both of those things are true at the same time. We stand in the lobby of my building for a moment that stretches longer than it should. My father's folder hangs at his side, unopened. My mother turns her face slightly away, the way she does when she's recalibrating. "I'm going to need some space," I say, "a significant amount of it. I'll let you know if that changes." I hold the door open. After a moment, they walk back to the silver sedan. I watch them go. I feel something I can't name until I'm back upstairs with the door locked and the kettle on. Something like the absence of weight. The particular lightness of a woman who has finally said the true thing out loud, at a normal volume, to the people it was meant for. Spring comes slowly that year. By April, the bungalow has new windows, an open kitchen, a reading nook off the main bedroom that my client had always wanted and never thought to ask for. She stands in the middle of the renovated living room on the day I hand over the keys, and turns in a slow circle with her eyes closed. She opens them. There are tears at the corners, which she doesn't seem embarrassed by. "It feels like me," she says. I put my hands in my pockets. That's the whole job. She laughs. She hugs me briefly, the way older women hug when they mean it. My aunt and uncle drive down for the weekend in June. We eat at a diner my uncle has decided is the best diner within 50 miles, which he announces to the waitress, who seems genuinely pleased. My aunt and I share a piece of pie that is too sweet and too large and entirely necessary. "We've been thinking," my aunt says over decaf. My uncle pulls out a folded piece of paper from his jacket pocket and slides it across the table. I unfold it. It's a printout, a scholarship announcement from the community college in their town. The Mirabel and Hector Garza Design Scholarship, established in honor of dedicated emerging architects who demonstrate both technical ability and creative vision. The first recipient's name is a student I've never met. The founding contribution listed at the bottom of the page is $12,000. "Oh," I say. "We wanted it to go forward," my uncle says. "We thought you'd want that too." My aunt watches me read it again. "Your name isn't on it," she says. "We put ours because we thought, if you ever want to add yours later, you can, when you're ready." I fold the paper along its original crease. My throat is doing that complicated thing again. "I might want to put my name on it," I say. "Not yet, but maybe." She reaches across the table and covers my hand with hers. "Whenever you're ready, sweetheart. There's no rush." The diner hums around us. Someone at the counter is laughing at something on TV. Outside, the June evening is pressing through the windows, warm and very ordinary, the kind of evening that asks nothing of anyone and offers just enough. My phone lights up with a text from my cousin, thinking of you, hope you're eating something good. I photograph the pie and send it to her without comment. She sends back a string of emojis and then, living your best life, I knew you would. I set my phone face down and pick up my fork. My uncle is telling my aunt about whether the waitress's pie recommendation was trustworthy, and she is listening with the particular expression she wears when she's trying not to laugh. And I am sitting at a table in an ordinary diner in June, with the two people who drove 40 minutes to watch me win second place when I was 7 years old, and outside the light is doing what light does at this hour, going gold and long and unhurried, and I am 32 years old and I am not invisible, and I am not performing, and I am not waiting for anyone's permission to take up exactly the space I'm already in. I eat my half of the pie. It is, as my uncle promised, entirely worth it.